be left again. Not with anger, not with a fight. He just disappeared. And the worst part, you didn't even see it coming. One day he was warm, present, texting back fast, and then slowly, quietly, like smoke through a cracked window, he was gone. You replayed every conversation, every message, every moment, trying to figure out what you did wrong. But here is the truth. Nobody tells you. You didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't understand how his mind works. And today that changes completely, because what I am about to share with you is not about playing games. It is not about manipulation. It is not about pretending you don't care when you deeply do. This is about understanding the invisible emotional architecture inside an avoidant man's heart. And once you understand it, once you truly see how it works, you will stop chasing. You will stop over-explaining, and something extraordinary will happen. He will start to feel your absence in ways he cannot even explain to himself. Stay with me, because the next few minutes might be the most important thing you hear this year. Before we go further, if this is already speaking to something you have felt but couldn't put into words, drop the word clarity in the comments right now. Just that one word, clarity. It tells me you are ready to understand this on a deeper level. And if you want more content of this, make sure you subscribe. Hit that button, because we go deep here. We go real here, and we don't do surface level advice. Now, let's talk about something most people completely misunderstand about avoidant men. Most people think avoidant men don't feel deeply. They think these are cold men, disconnected men, men who simply don't care. But that is one of the biggest emotional misconceptions that exists. Avoidant men feel everything. Sometimes they feel too much. The problem is not that they don't feel. The problem is that feelings to them feel dangerous. Feelings to them represent a loss of control. And loss of control somewhere deep in their history became associated with pain, with abandonment, with being too much for someone, or with needing someone who wasn't there. So what did they do? They built a wall, not out of cruelty, out of survival. And here is where so many women make the critical mistake. When they feel a man pulling away, they do the natural human thing. They move toward him. They call more. They text more spots. They explain more. They ask more questions. They try harder. And every single one of those moves, as loving as they are, as genuine as they are, triggers the avoidant man's deepest defense system. It confirms his subconscious belief that closeness means losing himself, that intimacy means being swallowed, that connection means eventually being hurt. So, he retreats further, and you chase harder, and the cycle continues until one of you breaks. But what if you understood exactly what was happening inside his nervous system? What if you knew precisely what makes an avoidant man not just notice your absence, but actually ache for it? What if the key was never in being louder, but in becoming something he cannot stop thinking about? Let me walk you through this carefully. The first thing you need to understand is what I call the rubber band theory of emotional distance. When you pursue an avoidant man, it is like pushing on a rubber band from one end. The more pressure you apply, the more it wants to snap back in the opposite direction. He moves away, you follow, he moves further, you follow more, until eventually the rubber band breaks entirely. But the moment you stop pushing, the moment you step back and release the pressure, something fascinating happens in his nervous system. The threat disappears. The walls have nothing to defend against, and the rubber band on its own begins to pull him back toward you. This is not a trick. This is emotional physics. It is how the avoidant attachment system actually works in the human brain. When the perceived threat of engulfment is removed, curiosity returns, and curiosity is the beginning of missing someone. But here is the part most people skip. Stepping back is not enough on its own, because if you step back while radiating desperation, while going silent but clearly in pain on social media, while telling mutual friends how heartbroken you are, he still feels the pressure. Emotional pressure doesn't require physical presence. He can feel your energy even across distance. Avoidant people are extraordinarily sensitive to emotional undercurrents. They developed that sensitivity as children precisely because they had to read the room to protect themselves. So, the real move is not just physical distance, it is emotional independence. And this is where everything shifts. Emotional independence doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop making him the center of your emotional gravity. It means you return to yourself. It means you fill your own life with meaning, with connection, with growth, with joy. Even when it feels forced at first, even when it feels hollow, you do it anyway. Because here is what happens when you genuinely begin to return to yourself. Your energy changes, and he feels it. Avoidant men are some of the most emotionally perceptive people on the planet precisely because they learn to detect threat and safety from a very young age. When your energy shifts from chasing to genuine self-focus, he notices, maybe not consciously, but somewhere in his system something registers. The pressure is gone, and in the absence of that pressure, he starts to remember what drew him to you in the first place. Now, let's talk about what actually makes an avoidant man miss you deeply, and I mean deeply. Not just a passing thought, not just a momentary curiosity, but a genuine bone-level ache that he cannot explain away or intellectualize out of existence. The first element is mystery restored. When you are constantly available, constantly transparent, constantly showing him exactly where you are emotionally, you remove all mystery. And mystery is oxygen for an avoidant man's interest. It is not about being fake or withholding in a cruel way. It is about having a life so rich, so internally full, that he cannot fully map you. He cannot predict you. He file you away in the category of she will always be there. When you become unpredictable, not manipulatively, but genuinely because you are actually living your life, it creates a cognitive and emotional pull that is almost impossible for him to ignore. Think about it from his internal experience. He is used to you being in a certain emotional location, waiting, available, hoping. The moment you are no longer in that location, his internal GPS goes looking for you. And that search, that looking, that is the beginning of missing. The second element is the power of your absence as a presence. This sounds paradoxical, but it is deeply real. When you have been consistently in someone's emotional space, and then you genuinely withdraw, you don't disappear from their mind. You become more present in their mind because now they have to wonder. They have to fill in the blanks themselves. And the human brain, especially the brain of someone with avoidant tendencies, will fill those blanks with questions. What is she doing? Why hasn't she reached out? Is she okay? Does she still care? And then, underneath all of that, the question that actually matters. Do I care that she's gone? That question, that one question, is where everything changes for an avoidant man because they are not used to asking it. They are used to being the one who distances. They are used to being the one who controls the emotional temperature of the relationship. When you take back your own emotional temperature, when you are no longer reacting to his distance with panic, you have shifted the dynamic entirely, and he has to sit with feelings he doesn't know what to do with. The third element is becoming the version of yourself that he first fell for, and this one is uncomfortable to talk about, but critically important. When we are in anxious pursuit of someone, we become smaller, we over-explain, we apologize for things that aren't our fault. We shrink our opinions. We laugh at things that aren't funny. We agree when we don't actually agree. We perform a version of ourselves that is designed to manage his emotional state rather than express our genuine self. And avoidant men who are exquisitely tuned to inauthenticity feel this. They may not name it, but they feel it. And it repels them. But do you know what attracts them? What genuinely, almost magnetically attracts an avoidant man? A woman who is fully herself. A woman who has opinions and holds them. A woman who has her own world, her own humor, her own values, her own pain that she processes without making him responsible for it. A woman who doesn't need his validation to feel worthy, but who chooses him, genuinely chooses him from a place of strength rather than fear. That version of you is incredibly compelling to an avoidant man because she is safe in a way that anxious pursuit is not. She doesn't threaten to consume him. She doesn't make him feel like her emotional survival depends on him. She is just fully, beautifully, completely herself. And that, ironically, is what makes him want to come closer. So, the work here is not really about him. The work is about you coming back to yourself, remembering who you were before this relationship became the center of your universe.
What did you love?
What made you laugh without thinking about it? What dreams did you put on hold? What friendships went quiet? What version of you existed before you started monitoring his behavior for signs of interest or disinterest? Go find her. Invite her back because she is the one he actually fell for, and she is the one he will miss. The fourth is what I call controlled emotional exposure. This is subtle and it requires real emotional intelligence to execute well. Avoidant men shut down when they feel flooded. When there is too much emotion in the room, too much intensity, too much need, they go offline. They dissociate, they become flat. They leave physically or emotionally. But here is what many people don't realize. They don't actually want to be emotionally unavailable. Somewhere underneath all that armor is a man who wants to feel deeply connected, who is terrified of it, but who wants it. So when you do interact with him, whether that is in person or through a message or in any form of communication, the goal is warmth without intensity, presence without pressure, affection without agenda, a simple, genuine message. Not "I miss you and I think we need to talk," but something that shows you thought of him without demanding anything from him. Something that opens a door without pushing him through it. And then critically, you step back again. You don't wait by the phone. You don't analyze his response for 4 hours. You sent the message from a genuine place, and now you are back to living your life. This kind of interaction leaves an emotional residue. He feels warmth. He doesn't feel pressure. And warmth without pressure is the rarest thing an avoidant man ever experiences in a romantic context. It is what he secretly craves. And when you offer it briefly, genuinely, and then return to your own orbit, it creates a pull that is unlike anything else. The fifth element is letting him initiate. And I know this is hard. I know it goes against every impulse when you care about someone and you feel the distance between you. But this is not about power. This is about emotional safety. An avoidant man who reaches out to you is making one of the most psychologically significant moves he can make, because reaching out means risking rejection. It means admitting he wants connection. It means lowering a defense. For someone whose entire system is built around avoiding that vulnerability, initiation is enormous. When you always initiate, you take that experience away from him. He never has to risk. He never has to reach. And so he never gets to discover that reaching is safe, that you will receive him warmly without pouncing, without immediately escalating to a conversation about where things stand, without flooding him with everything you have been storing up. But when you create space, when you let him carry the silence until it becomes heavier than his resistance, he initiates. And in that initiation, something crucial happens. He discovers that he wanted to, that the desire to reach out to you came from him organically without external pressure. And that experience of genuine desire is what deepens his emotional attachment. Because avoidant men don't trust emotions that feel externally imposed. But when they feel something arising from within themselves, they trust it. They can't argue themselves out of it. They can't tell themselves it's just a reaction to your chasing, because you weren't chasing. And yet here he is, reaching out. And that means something to his internal world in a way that nothing else can create. The sixth element is the social ecosystem. This one works quietly in the background, but it is extraordinarily powerful. You don't need to perform happiness online. You don't need to post photos specifically designed to make him notice. Avoidant men see through that immediately, and it triggers their sense of being emotionally managed, which makes them retreat. What you want instead is genuine social aliveness, actually going out, actually reconnecting with people, actually doing things that matter to you. And if that happens to land somewhere in his social awareness, through a mutual friend, through something that is genuinely joyful and not performative, he encounters you living without him. And that image is extraordinarily powerful for an avoidant man, because part of his unconscious belief system is that people become dependent on him. That intimacy leads to obligation. That closeness means becoming responsible for someone's happiness. When he sees you genuinely alive and thriving in his absence, it challenges that belief system at its root. You are not waiting. You are not diminished. You are not making him the source of your happiness. You are just living your beautiful, full life, and that version of you becomes intensely attractive to him. Because suddenly, being with you doesn't feel like a responsibility. It feels like a privilege. Now, let's talk about the inner emotional process that happens for an avoidant man when all of these elements are working together. First, there is relief. When the pressure stops, he breathes. He relaxes. He tells himself he was right to need space. This phase can last days or weeks. Don't be alarmed by it. Don't interpret it as confirmation that he doesn't care. This is just his nervous system decompressing. Then comes curiosity, a thought here and there, a memory, a moment where he hears a song or sees something that reminds him of you. He doesn't act on it, not yet, but the thoughts are coming. Then comes the awareness of absence. This is different from curiosity. This is a felt sense of missing. He notices that something is different, something is quieter, and slowly, uncomfortably, he begins to realize what that thing says. It is you, not your pursuit of him, not your need for him, just you, your laugh, your way of seeing things, your presence. Then comes the internal conflict. His avoidant programming says, danger, stay away. But his genuine emotional need says something different. Something like, I actually want to talk to her. And this conflict is uncomfortable for him. He will try to logic his way out of it. He will find reasons why reaching out is a bad idea. He will tell himself it would just start everything again. But the feeling persists because feelings, unlike thoughts, do not respond to logic. And then, often when he least expects it, he reaches out. Sometimes it is something small, a casual message, a meme, a question that doesn't really need to be asked, but that contact is everything. That contact is him walking through the very fear his whole system was built to avoid. And he does it because the missing became stronger than the fear. That is the moment you have been working toward, not with games, not with manipulation, but with genuine emotional intelligence and real self-respect. And when he reaches out, your response matters enormously. Do not flood him. Do not release everything you have been holding. Do not immediately ask where things stand. Receive his contact with warmth and lightness. Be genuinely happy to hear from him without making that happiness a source of pressure. Let the conversation breathe. Let there be space between messages. Let him discover again that being with you feels safe and not suffocating. This is the rebuilding phase. And it requires the same emotional discipline as the withdrawal phase, maybe even more, because now the feelings are coming back online, his and yours. And the temptation to run towards security, to demand clarity, to nail down the relationship with labels and commitments will feel overwhelming, but resist it. Not forever. You deserve clarity. You deserve a secure relationship, but not in this moment. In this moment, you let the connection rebuild naturally. You let trust form slowly. You let him move toward you at a pace that his nervous system can handle. And as he does, as he continues to choose to move toward you, the dynamic shifts. He is no longer the avoidant who runs, and you are no longer the anxious one who chases. You are two people who are genuinely carefully choosing each other. And that foundation built on genuine choice rather than fear-driven dynamics is entirely different from what you had before. It is more real. It is more stable. It is built on emotional truth rather than reactive patterns. But this entire journey, every single step of it, begins with you, not with him. With you. With your decision to stop abandoning yourself in the pursuit of someone who hasn't fully chosen you yet. With your commitment to return to your own life, your own joy, your own sense of self, not as a strategy, but as an act of genuine self-respect. Because here is the deepest truth in all of this. The version of you that doesn't need him to come back in order to be okay. That is the version of you that makes it almost impossible for him to stay away. The woman who has healed enough to enjoy her own life, to laugh without wondering if he hears it, to grow without measuring her progress by whether it makes him notice. That woman is magnetic in a way that no strategy can manufacture. She is not playing a game. She is simply whole, and wholeness is the most attractive thing that exists. So this is your invitation, not to chase, not to perform, not to strategize every move, but to come home to yourself, to rebuild the relationship you have with your own life, to become so genuinely present in your own existence that his absence, while it still hurts, no longer empties you. And from that place, everything becomes possible, including him, including a love that is chosen freely from both sides, from a place of genuine desire rather than fear. That is what you deserve. Not someone you had to chase into staying, but someone who woke up one day, felt the weight of your absence, and chose clearly and consciously to stop letting you go. Give this time. Give yourself grace and trust the process that begins not with him, but with you, walking back toward the most important relationship in your life, the one you have with yourself, because that walk changes everything, including him.